Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be making products for my new Etsy shop. I'm not completely sure what that's going to consist of yet, but I think I'm going to be painting up some of these. I don't know if you remember that video I made ages ago where I made 3 little blob people, but I made loads more. I made like 12 and I didn't paint the rest of them, so I will be doing that. Those will be going up for sale.
I feel like I have to point out how rectangular my head looks just so that no one else does. Please don't hurt me.
I could potentially make some stickers today. I could make some like packaging elements. I could paint some more of those little wooden circle things. And I am pre-recording this, so by the time you're watching it, I may or may not have already set up the shop. Potentially, if I have, the link will be in the description. If I haven't, then it won't be. When it is ready, I'll put an announcement on my Instagram. Let's proceed to making the things. Enjoy the video.
I am going to be making 3 things today. The first one is this little watercolor painting in a neurographic art style. If you don't know what that is, I made a whole separate video ages ago kind of explaining what it is and how to do it. I don't know if it's any good anymore. It was a while ago. It's probably a bit bad, but I'll link it in the iCards anyway. You can probably figure out what it is, but I'll give you a brief description anyway. Basically, you draw loads of shapes, you draw lines through the shapes, and then you color on the lines. That's basically it. Originally, my concept for this was kind of like galaxy space vibes, which is like basic, yes, but it would have looked cooler than what it turned out looking like. I don't know why, but I just thought, oh yeah, green, orange, red, those are all colors of a galaxy. And then it didn't look like that, and it just turned into rainbow vomit, but eh. It looked alright though. It gave me a chance to practice my watercolor skills and blending colors together, and I think that did create quite a nice effect. If you wanted to do something like this, my tip would definitely be to limit the color palette a bit. Keep to like one end of the rainbow, or I don't know, like contrasting colors or something. Don't use every color because it just doesn't look very tasteful when you finished it. Another tip, if you're specifically using watercolors, you might know this already, but it's always good to have 2 separate water pots, one to clean your brush and one to supply the palette with water, because otherwise if you use like the cleaning pot for the supplying pot as well, it like muddies your colors a lot and they get really desaturated. But if you want that effect, then go ahead. But if you want bright, vibrant colors like I did, then definitely use 2 pots. Once all the paint had dried, and this is quite important, otherwise it just doesn't work and ruins it, I added the outline, which is another, if you don't know, key feature of neurographic art, is that between all the coloured in shapes you have this multitude of lines of kind of the same thickness, but the key thing is that at the corners where the lines meet, you curve it round so that they're all kind of soft edges. I just did this with a Micron pen, but in the past I've used like a black Sharpie or a ballpoint pen or literally anything. One of the good things about neurographic art is you can do it with literally any medium. I've done it with paint, I've done it with watercolor pens, I've done it with like alcohol markers. It's a very versatile like art style. To finish it off, I just used white acrylic paint to add little details into all of the little corners. And here's the finished thing. As I said, I'm not the most proud of it, but it's grown on me since I've done it and I do actually quite like it. Does anyone recognize these little fellows? If you do, please let me know in the comments because you're clearly an OG Max Wuruhai art watcher, viewer, listener. These are my beloved blob men, and today we're going to be recreating them in a way and painting their little brothers as such. First up, we have Sebastian, the slightly sinister strawberry. All of my blob men are loosely based around fruit. This one is clearly a strawberry, and the process with them remains the same throughout. You paint them a sort of somewhat pastel base color, then you shade them, which you don't have to shade 3D objects, I just think it looks nice if you do. And then you give them little dot details on their face, you color in their little fruit they're holding, and you give them the classic green hat, hair, accessory thing, whatever it is. I'm going to be somewhat sad about selling these, but also I know they'll be going to a better home because they just sort of sit on my shelf at the moment. They don't get any love. And I'm sure whoever I sell them to will also just have them sitting on their shelf, but you know, whatever. Drawing to the end of the strawberry, I'll show you the finished of all of them at the very end of this section. Moving on, this one, I haven't come up with a name for him yet. He is Barry the Blueberry, and he's blue because he's blue, but also because he's emotionally blue. He's upset, as you can tell by his very unhappy face. Who knows why he's upset? I think someone touched his blueberry without his permission, and now he's sad about it, because it's very personal to him. It's like a beloved family heirloom, and you can't touch it. You just can't. I think when I send them off, I'm gonna pack them with some little cards that kind of explain their personalities and what's going on with them in their headspace. And it's probably not everyone's thing. People will probably just be freaked out by this. So be like, why does this little clay blob have a personality? But I think it's quite sweet, and I'd be charmed if someone sent me that. The final candidate for today is Otis the Anxious Orange, and I had a lot of trouble with Otis. He was difficult because of the glasses. No disrespect to people with glasses, but it's difficult. I'm sure if you have art friends and you wear glasses, I'm sure they've said, can you take off your glasses whenever they want to draw people? In this case, it wasn't for that reason. It was because they're just difficult to shade around, because they would just sort of bleed into the rest of his face if you put the darker colour next to them, because they were the darker colour. So in the end, I just didn't shade around them. And I did some touch-ups off camera on him because it was just too difficult to film and look at all the tiny details at the same time. And I felt kind of bad for hating on him because he's clearly not got a lot of self-confidence anyway, and for me to be constantly like swearing at him and dropping him and stuff can't have been good for him. I am quite happy with how he turned out in the end though. I think he looked quite sweet. He maybe is my favourite, but I don't know, I hold a grudge. Here they are, all together, amidst the old brothers that they have. They love it. They're having a great time. Another blast from the past here. I made this year, I think in February, before I disappeared. And it's just like a little hangy circle decoration of a cat looking out the window. And as you can see here, I'm just replicating that exact same design with different colours 4 times. I just find it would just be easier. I just did the same design because I like the design. I feel like other people would like the design, and it's easy to reproduce. I started by painting a plain white base coat on all of them, which you can already see. And then I did the sketch over it, just because otherwise you'd see like the texture of the wood through the paint, and it would take a couple coats to cover it up. And you know, maybe one day I'll use the wood texture, because it is actually quite nice. And I feel like I could incorporate it into a design, but for these ones it was better just to like leave it behind. I made them all different kind of pastel-y colours, and I made them different from the original one as well. So as you can see, pink, blue, yellow, purple. And this technique is somewhat inspired by an artist I saw when I was at Florence with school in October. There was this lady, and I bought one of her paintings. They were of like little cats looking at the city of Florence, and I was like, oh, that's so cute. And she had 4 or 5 at a time that she'd just do the same bit on each one as I'm doing here. So I'm like doing the background, doing the background, doing the background, doing the window, as you can see. I feel like the only difficult thing about this was filming it, because like I have to have them all on the same thing at once if I'm working on them all at once. It was just kind of difficult not to smudge the fresh wet paint with my arm whilst fresh wet painting on the other one. As you can see, some of the colours I kept the same on the design, like the bookcase and the black sky, because it's nighttime, so it's gonna be the same. I think the cute little sky with the moon and the stars is my second favourite part of the design. Obviously my favourite's the little cat, because I love the little cats. Speaking of little cats, I've been trying to persuade my little cat to be in a video for basically since I started the channel all those years ago, because cat videos are slay, and also because I just want to. I have a vision of him like picking stuff out of like choices out of 3, and the choice is what I draw, which it might not make sense out loud, but I can never seem to convince him to do it. I always get the motivation to do it during the summertime, and he's always outside murdering things in the summertime, so he's never in. So I'll just have to wait till winter when the lighting's really bad and the video quality is going to be a bit crap. But I'm just going to have to grin and bear it because it's my dream. It's my life dream and I will accomplish it one day. When painting the bookshelves on these, I just used like the wall colour, the lighter wall colour, the bookshelf colour, and the windowsill colour. I just used colours that were already in there to keep the design nice and simple and make it kind of collect together. It would just look random. If I had loads of random colours in there, it wouldn't look right. I also matched the cat's collars to the colour of the wallpaper. In the original design, I used a slightly darker green for the collar, which I feel like would have looked better on these, but I just couldn't be asked to mix up another of the darker colour. And all the cats were different colours as well, so as you can see, a little ginger guy with the yellow down there, and then I used a kind of grey brown for the purple. I tried to pick colours of the cats that would somewhat complement the colours of their rooms. So like a cool grey for the blue, kind of a warm ground for the purple. And I left the pink one white because I thought white would look nice, but that meant I had to do multiple coats of white over it to cover up the pencil lines and also to like make it stand out a bit more. I added little stripy details which you can't really see very well on the ginger one. Once they dried, I gave the designs outlines, and I feel like they could have gone without, but just because the colours were so light and there wasn't a lot of shading in the pictures, I feel like they needed it to give them a bit of definition. And I started by doing this with my fine liners, and it worked okay, but then it just kind of stopped all of a sudden, and I hope I didn't like break my fine liners because they're usually fine on paint. They won't have run out, I just did something wrong. I need to move on. I'm mourning them internally if you can't tell. I ended up just using a ballpoint pen in the end, which I was kind of against doing because these were kind of quality items that I must sell and I have to use quality artist supplies to make them. So, I mean, I tried. I only resorted to the ballpoint pen when I absolutely had to. And it was a lot easier. Ballpoint pen really sticks well to paint, I've discovered. I was also slightly worried about doing that though because I was going to varnish them at the end and sometimes the varnish reacts badly with the ballpoint pen. But it didn't, so, you know, it's fine. It all worked out in the end. I actually really like them though. I feel like I'm going to be so sad when I sell them, but I can just reproduce them so easily that it won't really matter. Here are the finished things. As I said, very happy with them. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to check out the shop and leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!